What strategies do you need to use every day to heal from chronic pain and symptoms? Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I've been getting a lot of questions around what exactly someone should be doing in order to heal from neuroplastic pain and symptoms. People want a bit of a formula of what strategies should I use every single day so that I can heal. Now, I've come up with 6 strategies or 6 areas that I highly recommend people engage in very often, if not every day. But I don't want people to watch this video and get really rigid in the way they do their work, because the attitude you have, the attitude you bring to the work matters more than exactly what you do. That's key here. So things to keep in mind as you're utilizing these strategies is, first off, focus some of the strategies on things that you actually enjoy doing or are pleasant for you. You know, we have to deal with difficult emotions, trauma, all sorts of things to heal from chronic pain and symptoms, but make some of the work enjoyable. You're much more likely to be consistent and consistently utilize these things daily if at least some of them you look forward to doing. Now, the next thing is take the pressure off and don't be too intense. If you listen to this video and then you intensely, rigidly apply all these things and put a bunch of pressure and deadlines on when you're going to heal by, or else, like, you're not going to heal. I know this from experience, you're not going to heal. So more important than what you do is you need to take the pressure off this and not do the work really intensely. Now, the next thing I like to talk about with people is just cultivating an attitude of lightness and ease as you engage in the work. Be curious, be interested in what happens, have a lightness to it. I always think of a curious kitten or puppy. That's the attitude we're going for. I know that's hard when we're dealing with difficult things, but we want to cultivate that over time. And lastly, make the goal safety. If pain or chronic symptoms are a danger signal that your brain is sending you, it's sending you this warning sign, then the solution is safety. Any step in the direction of safety is going to be a step in the right direction. So just bear that in mind as you're doing the work. Now, let's dive into these 6 strategies you should utilize on a daily basis. Number 1, brain retraining. When we have neuroplastic pain and symptoms, your brain changes in such a way that reinforces chronic pain and symptoms. Over time, it learns through fear, through dysregulation, that it should be producing pain. The way we respond to our pain reinforces this. The way we respond to our physical symptoms reinforces this. And so brain retraining needs to be done consistently. This can include things like cognitive messages of safety. Every time you have a negative thought about your pain, give a message of safety. I have a brain retraining exercise that I'll link to the top on cognitive messages of safety. That'd be a great one to do daily. The other thing is somatic tracking. We need to change the emotional response to our physical symptoms. Somatic tracking, it's not so much the logic, it changes the way we emotionally respond. It works with the emotional brain and primitive brain and helps it feel safe while the physical symptoms are there. We're teaching our brain that our body's actually okay. Now, if you're new to somatic tracking, I'll link a video to the top that you can check out, and it has a meditation in there that you could utilize daily as well. The other thing I talk about with brain retraining is just generally changing our thoughts and beliefs. A great skill from pain reprocessing therapy called the 3R skill. I have a video on that I'll link to the top. That's something that you want to do consistently. Whether you're having negative thoughts and beliefs about your pain or symptoms, or just life in general, we need to reduce fearful, despairing, obsessive thinking in order to actually heal. Then when we talk about brain retraining, people ask us a lot about somatic tracking or brain retraining in general, like how often do I do this? If you're only doing it a couple times a week, it's probably not going to be enough. You have so many experiences with negative thoughts, with negative beliefs, with pain or symptoms that are probably reinforcing fear, that this is something you want to do a couple times a day. Again, as you heal and you're in less chronic pain and symptoms, you may do this less, which is great. That's a great problem to have. But at first, at least a couple times a day, maybe a few longer ones. That's what I would do a lot when I was healing. Or you can do really brief ones, like a somatic tracking can be 2 minutes. It could be you just being curious, interested in the sensations of pain or symptoms, give a message of safety, take a few warm, compassionate breaths in, and move on. All those add up. So whether you're doing a couple longer ones or several little ones throughout the day, you are maximizing our chances of our brain rewiring. Number 2, exposure and movement. I believe that movement is medicine. Movement supports us in actually activating the ventral vagal state in our nervous system, which is safety, connection, calmness, and ease. It helps us process survival energy that we might be having, fight, flight, freeze, shutdown. It helps us experience, release, and express emotions. And movement also teaches our brain that our body's actually safe. Now, for a lot of people with chronic pain and symptoms, myself included, what happens over time is our world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And by the end, even with my own journey, I was barely moving at all. I was terrified to walk. I was terrified to move my arms. I had such fear that movement was going to worsen things, or certain positions were going to worsen things. And the problem became is that when the pain's neuroplastic or your symptoms are neuroplastic, the body's not actually damaged. So it's not the movement or position that's actually triggering the symptoms. What happens is your brain just starts to interpret that movement or position is potentially dangerous, and it just clicks on the symptom as a result. So it's not the movement or position that's dangerous when the pain or symptom are neuroplastic. It's just a misinterpretation the brain's done, which is clicking it on. And so to heal, one thing that we need to do is we need to start approaching movement. We need to start approaching activities or positions, because by doing that, first off, you're going to have a lot more freedom in your life, but that's how our brain learns behaviorally. Oh, Tanner's moving his body again. We must actually be okay. We must be safe. We need the graded exposure. A great way to do this is somatic tracking with movement. So it's basically somatic tracking, but you're doing kind of rounds of movement. So for myself, when I was first doing this, I would just pace in my house, kind of back and forth for a few minutes. And then I'd sit down, calm myself, give messages of safety, deal with any difficult emotions that came up. And then if I was ready, I'd move again. And so somatic tracking with movement is this graded exposure that starts to give our brain new experiences that the movement, the position, the activity is safe. And so this is something you need to do every day. A lot of times where I see people's healing get stunted is there's not a willingness to start approaching movement or positions again. And you could do everything you want in terms of the other strategies I'll list, but if we avoid movement and positions completely, it's a really hard environment to heal in. So some graded exposure or movement every single day is pretty essential when it comes down to some of this. Number 3, emotional processing. We need to deal with difficult emotions. When we resist difficult emotions, we are much more likely to have pain and physical symptoms increase. It's been shown in several studies when we suppress and resist feeling emotions, pain and symptoms increase. And for a lot of people, this is what actually triggered their chronic pain and symptoms in the first place, or is perpetuating them forward. And so emotions, we're emotional beings. Every single day, you're going to feel the full spectrum of emotions: love, joy, frustration, anger, sadness, guilt, shame. You're an emotional being. You're going to feel all these things. And so if you're only doing emotional work a few times a week, it's likely not enough. And I'm not of the opinion that people need to process every emotional thing in their past. I think sometimes certain people need to, but we don't always need to do that. But we need to process our emotions in the present that we're experiencing. Throughout your day, how much are you allowing yourself to lean into feeling difficult emotions and processing them? Now, I have a somatic basics video that teaches some somatic tools, some somatic processes for dealing with difficult emotions, and I'll link that to the top. Check that out if you're confused about emotional work. The other thing that's very popular in the mind-body community is journaling. Dr. Sarno, Dr. Schubiner, Nicole Sachs, they all talk about journaling. And this is a great top-down way to process our emotions and actually, move through them and express them. But some emotional work every single day needs to happen. Whether you're taking 2-3 minute breaks throughout your day to just emotionally check in, feel the stress or anger or sadness you might be feeling, that's great, do that. Or, for myself, what I usually do, I feel my emotions throughout the day, but usually at the end of the night or in the beginning of the morning, I spend 10-15 minutes processing how I'm feeling somatically or retrospectively processing an event that took place, and I think about it for a bit and then feel my emotions. So make sure each day that you're processing your emotions. Number 4, nervous system regulation. When our nervous system is dysregulated, which means we're in a prolonged state of fight, flight, freeze, or shutdown, and we're there for days or weeks constantly, we're much more likely to have chronic pain and symptoms be triggered and perpetuated. Now, a regulated nervous system does not mean you're always in ventral vagal, where you're safe, calm, connected, at ease. It means you're flexible. So even for myself now, at points every day I go into fight or flight, but I can go into it and shift back out with more ease. I can shift back out to a safe, connected, calm place. That's nervous system regulation. It's flexible. But in order to make your nervous system flexible, we need to consistently do nervous system regulation techniques. There's lots on this channel that I talk about. I have some Qigong videos that are up there for free. I'll link one to the top. Qigong's a great way of doing this. If you prefer yoga, go to yoga class. Watch a yoga video online. Breath work is great as well. I'll link a breathing practice that you can check out. For myself, I have cold showers a couple times a day for 3 or 4 minutes. It's a great way that makes my system more flexible and regulated. So find something that works for you, that you're interested in, that's pleasant for you, and start to do some consistent nervous system regulation. Again, this should be a daily practice because it's cumulative. It takes time for the nervous system to regulate. You're not going to do this work for 1 week and feel completely zen and regulated all the time. That's not what's going to happen. It's going to take some consistent effort. Number 5, focus on reducing maladaptive coping mechanisms. So a lot of people with neuroplastic pain symptoms, myself included, we can be perfectionistic, people-pleasing, excessively controlling, self-critical, placing pressure on ourselves. And this is the way we go about living life. And so to heal, we need to change that. We need to change the way we're approaching life. And this is hard because as we start to reduce these maladaptive coping mechanisms that are causing our brain and nervous system to feel in danger quite constantly, but as we reduce them, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. There is going to be this backdraft of anxiety, shame, guilt that you're going to feel. And that's a great time to process your emotions. But we need to do some exposure work into reducing these traits. For myself, when I was healing, I really reduced how much I needed to excessively control everything. I reduced how much pressure I put on myself with tasks. I was so perfectionistic. A great way that I did this at first is I used to reread emails like 3 times. I started to just read them once through. Read them once through, hit send. Sounds little, but I send a lot of emails all day. These small changes, they really add up. So reducing, perfectionism, pressure, self-criticism, reducing people-pleasing, starting to set boundaries, express your emotions outwardly. It cultivates feelings of safety over time. Maybe not in the immediate present, there's going to be a backdraft of emotion, but over time, it's going to cultivate a sense of safety in your nervous system. Your nervous system wasn't always meant to be perfectionistic or people-pleasing or excessively controlling. And if we keep that up, it causes a lot of dysregulation. So each day I'll do a little exposure work around these maladaptive coping mechanisms. It can have big results in the long run. And finally, number 6, start approaching life. In the first 5 strategies I gave you in this video, they were very strict strategies of, do this strategy, do that strategy. And that's all great. I don't want people to get too rigid about that, like I've said. But one of the best strategies is actually starting to approach life. If we start to widen our world, the brain and nervous system get the message, hey, they're actually okay. The body's actually okay. They're not avoiding everything anymore. Like I said with the movement section, our life gets so small. We just avoid everything in life. And so one of the best messages of safety we can send our brain and nervous system is actually starting to approach life again. And one thing that I always ask people, question I always ask them is, what's one thing you can do today to make your life bigger and your symptoms smaller? That's key. Ask yourself that question every single day. And you don't need to start with these huge things. I needed to softly and gently and compassionately start approaching life. At first, I just started to go to coffee with friends. I started to go to some family gatherings or some social gatherings. I started to go to movie theaters with my partner, Anne. These were small ways I started to approach life. But actually approaching life teaches our brain that we're actually safe. And lean into it. Approach the beautiful parts of life, the vibrant parts of life that you want to engage in. We're not just healing chronic pain and symptoms to get rid of our chronic pain and symptoms. I know we're all honed in on that, and I remember that. But we're doing it to have this full, vibrant, beautiful life. That's why we're doing this work. And so start that work now. Start approaching life little bit by little bit. So I hope this video was helpful on some strategies you need to use every single day. Again, be flexible with this. You may need different things on different days. For example, even with somatic tracking, if you're in the middle of a pain flare, not ideal to do somatic tracking. Take a day off. But be flexible with yourself. But start to consistently utilize some of this. So please put your questions or comments down below. Hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to you all next week. Take care.